We are getting live. Okay, you know the drill. I said a drill, Kristel. Coffee talk with Kristel, Thursday morning. It's interesting because some of the things that we've seen repetition, people open packages like, so I'm starting to make noise. It's like, pay attention. Hello, people. I'm gonna have a coffee talk right now. And quite honestly, I am actually a little bit hyper from what I just did for the first time. It's not even the coffee, it's the fact that I went on TikTok and for my first time did a live and I got distracted by the number of people joining. So maybe one day this will be the case when I'm doing a live on YouTube. So this is interactive. I bring information to you, but I want you guys to have fun with me because life is about having fun. Okay. So topics today. Do my best with the 4 topics for today. Have you ever noticed that 2 people can look at the same exact property and come to completely different conclusions? I use a coffee analogy, but I'm just going to straighten this one. One person sees a beautiful kitchen. Okay, I'll go back to the coffee. And one person feels like, oh my gosh, this coffee cup is so nice. Warmth and everything. The other sees a potential investment. Be like, this is going to get me awake for this talk. So one person asks, well, would I live here? The other asks, would this property help me achieve my goals? Makes sense with the coffee, right? Would I feel the warm and fuzzy, the smell of the coffee versus, hey, is this going to make me wake up or is this going to make me more tired? It depends on the coffee for me. Same for a property. So if you're an investor, you might be going through, hey, is this going to help me achieve my goals? Today, we are continuing our investor series. And if you ever thought about buying your first investment property, this may be one of the most important coffee talks we've done. And as you know, we're on YouTube. So what do we have to do? Subscribe. So please subscribe so it can help me grow, not just for growth, but to bring this information to as many people who are looking to invest in real estate and understanding the financial side of it. But before we go into that specific, let's go into the market updates. Realtor.com has a housing market report for May. And have you ever felt like every good property was gone before you ever had a chance to think about it? You finally find something you like, you call your realtor, and it's already under contract. For years, that's what buyers faced. Today, we are seeing something different. Inventory continues to rise across much of the country. Homes are staying on the market longer. Price reductions are becoming more common, and sellers are becoming more willing to negotiate. My most recent contracts, we're talking about tens of thousands of dollars in seller concessions. Now, that doesn't mean every market is declining. Real estate is local. But nationally, we're seeing more balance than we've seen in years. And that's important because investors love balanced markets. Why? Well, because balanced markets allow them to do something that was nearly impossible during the frenzy. Analyze. They can review the numbers, review the rental income, review expenses, review strategy without feeling pressured to make an emotional decision, which leads perfectly into today's main topic. All right, the main topic is how investors actually analyze a property before they buy. One of the biggest reasons new investors lose money isn't because they bought the wrong property. It's because they analyze it like a homeowner instead of an investor. So we're going to simplify this. Most successful investors follow a few basic rules. Rule number 1, investors start with rent, not price. Most buyers ask, how much does this house cost? Investor will ask, how much will it produce? Because rent drives investment. Let's say 2 properties cost $300,000. Property 1 rents for $1,900. Property A rents for $1,900. Property B rents for $2,700. Same purchase price, completely different investment. The first number investors want to know: what is the realistic rent? Not the optimistic rent, not the future rent, not the seller's rent, the actual rent. And there are websites you can actually use to do an analysis of see how much you can rent for. Rule number 2, rent is not profit. This is where many first-time investors get surprised. They say the rent is $2,500. Great. But remember, you have to subtract the mortgage, the taxes, the insurance, HOA, maintenance, vacancy reserve, and property management. The question isn't what is the rent? The question is what is left over? Because cash flow is what pays you. Okay. Rule number 3, investors plan for problems before problems happen. This is one of the biggest mindset shift. New investors assume the tenant always pays, nothing breaks, everything goes smoothly. That's very optimistic, right? But experienced investors, they know better. Water heater fail, air conditioning breaks, tenants move out. The goal isn't avoiding surprises. The goal is preparing for them. That's why investors build reserves. Rule number 4, investors know their exit strategy before they buy. Before purchasing, successful investors already know the answer to this question. How do I plan to make money? Will this become a long-term rental, meaning it's rented a whole year, like a 1-year lease? Will this be a short-term rental? That can be 3 months, or the Airbnb style, like every day they have a tenant. Would it be a flip? Will it be a BRRR strategy? Would it be a future retirement property? I was one of those investors, retirement properties. That's how I invested. So what is yours? The exit strategy determines whether the property makes sense. That's when people say, what is it that I need to do or know as an investor? Well, it depends. What's your goal, right? Always start with the goal. Okay. Topic number 3. Actually, I needed to remove this little background. Okay. This is where many future investors get stuck. They keep looking for a property they personally love. Yes. But investing and homeownership are 2 different games. I've seen people reject profitable properties because the cabinets weren't updated, the countertops weren't perfect, the neighborhood wasn't where they would personally live. Meanwhile, experienced investors are asking, is there a rental demand? Are the numbers strong? Does this support my goal or my goals? A tenant doesn't care that you love the backsplash. The investment doesn't become better because you would personally live there. Sometimes the best investment property is the one you will never choose for yourself. And I would say from my personal experience, I've done both because I've leaned into my property. Like, is this decent? But this is me as a single person, not with a family, with kids and things of that nature. Even though I did with one of my properties as a married person, it was a little bit different. It was a combination of both. But the numbers, when I did it based on the end game, which is and has been keeping this property as a retirement income, I still have this property and it still makes a great cash flow. So the end game, even though things can change, this is the important part as to how you invest. Okay, topic number 4. If rates are higher than a few years ago, why is it that investors are still buying? Because they're not focused on today's rate. By the way, investors, when they're buying with hard money loans, they know it's short-term financing. They will eventually refinance into something, either sell the property and make their profit, or they would refinance it into something that is a lower interest rate and improve their cash flow. So they are focused on tomorrow's opportunity. So it's definitely a mindset shift when it comes to real estate investment. They understand 4 ways real estate creates wealth. Wealth builder number 1, cash flow. Monthly income after expenses. Wealth builder number 2, appreciation. The property increases in value over time. From this property increasing in value, you might access the equity and pull out some funds to purchase the next property and keep on buying this way. That's a strategy. Appreciation. Because by the way, you do not have a capital gain when you are getting access to the equity through a loan. So you keep that in mind. Wealth builder number 3, mortgage paydown. The tenant helps reduce the loan balance. Just want to add a little tip that goes for both investment as well as owner occupied. If you make at least one full extra payment towards the principal, you very often and continuously do this, you very often can save 5 to 7 years from the loan interest over the life of the loan. So think about that. Sometimes as a lender, I will invite clients to think about refinancing, but if you do the math, you realize that very often by the time you refinance and actually redo your loan, that mortgage pay down may go back up just so you can get a lower rate. Definitely numbers make sense, not just have to make sense, not just for investment cash flow, but also when you're thinking about paying down the loan through a refinance or by to reducing the interest rate. So think about those. Check your numbers. Wealth builder number 4, tax benefits, potential depreciation and other investor advantages. So many new investors only look at one piece of the puzzle. Experienced investors look at all 4. And they know something important. You can refinance. You can lower your interest rate. You can change the terms of your loan. But the price that you pay for the property, you can't refinance that, only the interest rate. So if rates eventually fall, more buyers will enter the market. Competition may increase. Negotiating power may decrease. That's why some investors continue buying today. They're focused on long-term wealth creation, not waiting for perfect conditions. So today's lesson is very simple. Homeowners ask, do I love this property? Even just ask, does this property help me achieve my goal? And that single question changes everything. You know how you put in ChatGPT or prompt? It's the same. If you put in a prompt in your mind, do I love this property or does this property help me achieve my goal? Your answers are going to be different if you're an investor. And honestly, even if this is your home as owner occupied, think as an investor too, not just as the homeowner and I love a property. Does this achieve my goal of eventually selling this property, eventually keeping it as a rental, not just as the homeowner who's moving in and it's like, oh, I bought that $500,000 house and I can only either sell it or stay paying the higher mortgage versus a property where I can go ahead and pivot and keep it as a rental, pivot or sell it, right? So think, my encouragement is definitely think like an investor. Does this property help me achieve my goal? So in today's topic, we covered why rising inventory creates opportunity. A lot of people are taking advantage, negotiating for seller concessions. They do home inspection. From that, ask even for more seller concessions if possible or price reduction. I encourage you first to look into seller concessions to reduce the actual out-of-pocket cost, because reducing the price of a few thousand doesn't really make a difference in the monthly payment. Then we also talked about the 4 rules investors use to analyze properties, why the best investment property is rarely a dream home, and why investors continue buying even when the rates aren't perfect. Their focus is different, long term. I think that covers all the topics I wanted to share with you guys, but if you're considering your first investment property, house hacking, or even if you're an experienced investor, with my company, we can definitely help you wherever you are on your journey. So we'd love to connect with you. My contact information is definitely in the bio. Would invite you to please subscribe so you can get more information and also share with those who are interested in your circle of influence to invest in real estate. I am Kristel Keys. I rarely say this, but Kristel Keys, your lender, here to help in your journey in investing in real estate. Now I'm going to step into my next live, which is where is the mystical. Oh my gosh, mystical Kristel, which is that aspect of me that talks about everything is energy. And the energy you bring forth even in your investment, makes a difference. By the way, in that on that channel, I last week had a guest speaker who speaks about energy in a home. That might be a topic you check out. And as you are investing in real estate, that might be something of interest. Feng Shui, the energy of a home when you're investing, mostly if you want some positive cash flows. So just be open, see what's possible for you there. I will now go ahead and exit this live and we'll go into the Kristel Sacred Home. We're going to talk about energy, how I first encountered energy, awareness of it. And that might be helpful to you guys. All right, see you there.